friend sabotaged her own veterans banquet over social media demands, threatened lawsuits, but her meltdown led to healing silence. Ellen and I have been friends for a few years now, and we're both part of the same tight-knit friend group. She's graduating with her bachelor's degree this December and works as an assistant manager at a fast food place. What really excites her, though, is this side gig she's always talking about, her Instagram and TikTok, where she shares her opinions on current events. Recently, Ellen told me and a few others that she didn't want a graduation party. She's just not into celebrating herself and even skipped the high school graduation. Instead, she wanted to use the money her parents saved for the party to do something bigger for others, specifically, to honor veteran families from her church with a free banquet. Her idea was to use the restaurant space her parents would have rented, but for this gathering, welcoming everyone her parents would have invited to her graduation as well. Ellen's parents, who are both really involved at their church, loved the idea. Soon, someone at church offered a conference room for the banquet, saving money and pitching in toward food. Ellen said the theme was to honor veterans outside of Veterans Day, and the church was all in. They even made an announcement about it during Sunday service and had sign-ups for veterans after. To really share her motivation, Ellen made a video that the church sent out in their newsletter. In the video, she talked about having veteran relatives she's wanted to honor and explained her decision to dedicate her graduation money to something good. She also posted the video to her socials and included that she'd share clips from the event afterward. I'll admit, she has a knack for framing things in a way that draws attention. Inspired, Ellen asked our friend group to help decorate and serve at the event. A bunch of us volunteered right away, since we'd have gone to her party anyway. Ellen even got lots of praise at church. Members said they were moved by what she was doing, and she was glowing from all the compliments. Ellen's vision also included a ceremony where she'd individually acknowledge each veteran and present them with a goodie bag. She picked our brains for goodie bag ideas, and we were excited to help, but things took a weird turn. Her parents told her that some people, less than 5, who signed up through the church were uncomfortable being on social media and didn't want video clips of themselves posted. They wanted to be omitted or edited out of the segment where Ellen called each veteran onto the stage. That's when Ellen's attitude shifted dramatically. She started venting to our group about the church asking to edit certain people out of the footage. Even though the church offered their video editors and cameras to help, she didn't want to split the video credit or follow these demands. She said the people making the requests were entitled since they'd be eating for free anyway. Things escalated quickly. Her parents tried to reason with her, telling her it was important to respect people's consent about being online. Ellen snapped that she should have never created the event and didn't want to be told how to make her videos. She even threatened to cancel the entire banquet because, she said, the veterans should be thanking her instead of complaining. But her parents told her cancellation wasn't just her decision anymore, with the church involved and money already spent. Our friend asked if the point of the event was to honor veterans, as she'd said from the beginning. Ellen replied that if it had been a graduation party, it would have been all about her, and implied that honoring these requests was taking away from what she was getting out of it. She questioned if I was really on her side when I suggested that honoring the request was the right thing to do. It all spiraled from there. She told us we were done volunteering and insisted on canceling the banquet. When we suggested she slow down and think it through, she bristled at the idea. But what really got to me was when she posted a video saying that her parents didn't allow her to have a graduation party, and that was why she planned the veterans event as an alternative, that she was suppressing how she felt. She even claimed she was considering suing for emotional distress if the church didn't cancel the event, and she promptly deleted her previous posts discussing the party. Some of us reached out to her afterward. Through one of our friends, Ellen admitted she lied about not being allowed a graduation party. She just wanted to stop the banquet from happening. That revelation honestly changed my view of her. The banquet's still set for January, and many of us are moving forward with preparations, as a lot of people have already signed up to attend. I feel a real conflict about what to do. We'd already met at her place, brainstormed decorations and goodie bags. Some of us, myself included, are still on the hook as servers. I'm torn between reaching out to Ellen's parents to see if she's alright, or just sticking with my commitment since I don't believe in just ghosting. Some friends think she's spiraling emotionally, others think it was all about her social media presence. If Ellen is genuinely suffering, I want to be there for her. I decided I'm going to call her parents to check on her and see what the status of the party is. We've never seen her act like this before, and I can't just let it go. When I finally called Ellen's mom, let's call her Joy, I explained I was checking in about the banquet and also concerned about Ellen, since she'd told us not to volunteer anymore. Joy thanked me for reaching out and said she was already aware of the video Ellen posted, which slandered her own parents. Joy had asked her to remove it, but so far, Ellen hadn't complied. Now I'm just waiting to see what happens next. The lines between doing good for others and using it for personal gain never seemed so blurry before, and I'm hoping we can all find a way to honor the veterans, whether or not Ellen is driving the effort. After everything that happened with Ellen, I decided to reach out to her mother, Joy. Things had gotten so messy that I needed to hear directly from someone who still seemed grounded in the middle of all this. Joy confided that their family was going through a lot, but she appreciated that I reached out, especially after I told her I don't believe in abandoning commitments just because things got tricky. She assured me that the banquet was still happening and that she'd love for all of us to volunteer as planned. She made it clear that canceling now would be unfair to everyone involved, especially the veterans' families relying on us. She also confirmed that Ellen had argued with them about canceling the event. Joy explained to me that she and her husband were at a loss as to how to handle both the drama surrounding Ellen's video and her recent behavior. They told Ellen she was blowing things out of proportion after a couple of veterans simply asked to be left out of the tribute video, which, by the way, had plenty of volunteers besides just them. When I told Joy how baffled we all were by Ellen's sudden shift, she told me something I'd never heard before. Apparently, back in high school, Ellen refused to have a graduation party, even though her parents offered, and then later complained about how her friends received a bunch of money at theirs. When her parents suggested a belated graduation party, she refused again, wanting nothing to do with planning it herself, and then blamed them for not throwing her one in the first place. They even offered her a nice dinner with close friends if she wanted something smaller, but she shot that down too, insisting it was too late. So when it came time for Ellen's college graduation, her parents were convinced she'd want some kind of party, but she surprised them by not wanting one, either. Joy told me she regrets letting Ellen put the blame on them for her indecisiveness back then. Even though they still gave her a graduation gift, Joy admitted she made a mistake by enabling this pattern. Now, with Ellen threatening to disrupt the banquet she herself dreamed up, and got so many of us involved in, Joy put her foot down for good. She said there's just no way she'd allow Ellen to disrespect every single person who signed up to make this event happen. It's easy to forget, given everything going on now, that this entire banquet was Ellen's brainchild. It never would have happened without her, and I know it meant a lot to her. She told her parents she wanted to honor relatives who were veterans, that she felt led by God to do this rather than having a party for herself. Her parents backed her 100%. But now, after Ellen's tantrum, over refusing to share editing credit for a video the church never even asked her to make, simply because she took offense at a simple request, Joy said she realized she should have taught Ellen sooner not to feel so entitled, to accept advice and constructive criticism. Ellen's parents even paid for her entire college tuition, so naturally, they were more than a little insulted at her threat to sue them. When I mentioned that Ellen admitted, privately to a friend, that she'd lied in her video just to try to torpedo the banquet, Joy said maybe it was time Ellen learned she wouldn't always get her way. Before she found herself pulling stunts like this during her wedding, she actually laughed at that, hoping Ellen wouldn't bring this drama queen energy to bigger life moments. Apparently, Joy talked to a few other friends in our group, encouraging us to keep volunteering. So, I'm still on board to help with the event, and at this point, my friendship with Ellen is over. I do want to see this banquet through, though. This is the kind of thing that matters to me. I've never been religious, but I genuinely like helping out at volunteer events, even if they're at a church. I did food drives for churches when I was younger and always found it worthwhile. I really hope the event is a success and that maybe, just maybe, Ellen comes to her senses. Even if she has to learn this lesson the hard way, it might help her in the long run. I've tried calling her a few more times since all this went down, just to give her a final chance to explain things, but she never picked up. I didn't expect to have more to say before the banquet, but sure enough, something else happened worth mentioning. Over the weekend, Ellen posted another video, doubling down on her earlier threats. This time, she amped it up and threatened to sue the church if they didn't cancel the banquet, and she even tagged the church's social media accounts. Before, her threats were directed only at her parents, but now she's dragged the church into it as well. What stood out most, though, was that she again brought up how she was deprived of a graduation party. Now, she claimed it was because her parents got the chance to host the veterans banquet, choosing to fund this event instead of the graduation party they supposedly promised her prior to getting the church's approval. Funny thing is, in her first video, she said clearly that she came up with the idea for the banquet. Now, suddenly, it's more her parents' idea, and she only went along with it. It's almost as if she's rewriting the story to fit whatever narrative she thinks will get the event cancelled. By now, my friend group is pretty much done with her antics. I know I am. One of our friends even called her out directly under the new video, pointing out how she keeps contradicting herself. Ellen deleted the comment right away. There's another detail that slipped my mind earlier. After talking to Joy, I learned that Ellen had actually thrown away the goodie bags some of our friends helped put together at her place. That stung. So, we regrouped to plan something better. Reading feedback from plenty of people, including actual veterans, gave us a new idea. Apparently, Ellen's original plan of having veterans come up on stage to receive a goodie bag might have come across as cringy and self-serving, more for her social media than a genuine tribute. We ran with the suggestion and started designing a much more useful giveaway. One of my friends, John, pitched the idea of coupon bags. His dad is a manager at a local fast food chain and is looking into getting custom coupons for the event, and we're reaching out to other businesses too. Instead of candies and a personal note written by Ellen, these bags will have legitimately helpful stuff, and instead of embarrassing veterans by making them walk across the stage, we'll simply leave the bags at their tables for them to enjoy at their own pace. We're even considering not recording the event at all so the spotlight stays where it belongs, on the veterans themselves. According to Joy, Ellen's veteran relatives probably won't show up after all the drama. That's disappointing, but I'm not giving up my commitment to the veterans who signed up through the church. If those relatives don't come, we'll at least try to send them something meaningful in the mail. We just haven't figured out what yet since we're still talking to sponsors and working out what we can pull together. One thing is for sure, I'm going to see this thing through. The banquet is still on, the veterans are still worth honoring, and Ellen's meltdown is not going to stop us from making sure they have a night they deserve. I didn't expect to update so soon, but something happened that I absolutely have to talk about, especially because now, the banquet isn't happening anymore, and it's entirely because of something Ellen did. The background is this: after Ellen made her first and second videos, one threatening to sue her parents and another targeting her church, I discovered that she'd taken things even further behind the scenes. She sent direct messages to certain veterans, including 2 who specifically requested not to be recorded, plus others, telling them not to attend the banquet. Not only did she use profanity, but she claimed her parents stole her idea and wouldn't let her have a graduation party so they could instead fund the banquet. What really blows my mind is that Ellen has already admitted to some of our friends that these statements were lies, but here she was, repeating them just to tank the whole event. Her story kept shifting. In her DMs, she started saying the banquet was her idea, when in previous videos she claimed it was her parents' idea. Suddenly, she wanted to host her own party, separate from the graduation. She told the veterans not to attend because she'd call out anyone who went in a new video, and even threatened to sue them, which was exactly what she'd done when threatening her parents and church leaders. There was some choice language thrown in, too. Our friend group used to meet at her parents' house to make goodie bags and decorations, before Ellen tossed the decorations in a fit. We only learned about the DMs after Joy and her husband joined us at a friend's house after Ellen left the group. Joy and her husband revealed what was happening. Veterans had reported Ellen's threats to the church leadership, and the church had quickly stepped in. Thanks to the threats and the risk that Ellen might show up and cause even more drama, the church decided to cancel the banquet altogether. Veterans who Ellen contacted said they were thinking of skipping it, and the church didn't want anyone to feel uncomfortable or threatened. Rather than paying for catering, which the church and Ellen's parents were splitting, they decided to buy $25 multi-restaurant gift cards for the families of veterans who had RSVP'd, letting them enjoy a meal, peacefully, on their own terms. Some of the restaurants included Olive Garden and Outback Steakhouse, so the gesture was genuinely thoughtful. The banquet had been intended for all families with current and past veterans, and the church leaders believed this solution was the best way to de-escalate and prevent more problems while still honoring the veterans. There's already an annual tradition at the church, anyway. Every year on the Sunday closest to Veterans Day, they invite veterans to stand up during the service and give them a gift, similar to what they do for mothers on Mother's Day. They even mentioned possibly hosting a veterans dinner in the future, but probably not soon or the following year. They needed time so the reminder of Ellen's meltdown wouldn't be fresh in people's minds. The church already manages a Christmas dinner with carols for the congregation, so I know they'd be able to pull off a dinner like this if and when they choose to bring it back. Our friend group even received gift cards, from Joy, on behalf of the church, as a thank you for all the work we did before Ellen's explosion, even though we never actually got to roll things out beyond the initial goodie bags and decorations. I was honestly impressed by how maturely and graciously the church handled everything. They were looking for ways to make things right and avoid more chaos, and I can't imagine a better response than the one they chose. Joy also took a moment to apologize to us, especially with how all this drama unfolded so close to Christmas. Ellen's video threatening to sue the church had only gone up last weekend. Joy told us that Ellen was now banned from the church grounds, and if the harassment kept up, there might well be more consequences. She admitted how hard this situation was, since Ellen had been baptized as a teen, dedicated as an infant, sang in the children's choir, and grown up in that church. Joy mentioned she might consider switching churches as a family in the future, if Ellen would want to go, though probably not for a while, since her husband is still serving a board term. Somebody gently asked whether Ellen was okay mentally. Joy admitted there had been other tantrums and issues during Ellen's high school years that none of us had seen. Joy shared, as I only learned last weekend, that there was significant drama around Ellen's high school graduation party too. She thanked us all for sticking around and wanting to help after Ellen's outburst. I felt too bad for her, and honestly for everyone in that family, because it was such a mess. A couple people, not unkindly, pointed out that some of Ellen's entitlement might be due to how she was raised. Joy admitted, as she had to me during my last phone call, that she should have been more assertive at times. She reiterated that to the group, too. I appreciate everyone's advice on how to gain sponsorships for the event. Maybe we'll use those tips one day. But in the end, I think the gift card solution was the best possible under these circumstances. Some friends disagreed, saying the church should have gone ahead with the event to stand up to Ellen, but I agree with the decision to avoid anything that would escalate tensions or make veterans uncomfortable. At this point, all of us are completely done with Ellen as a friend, but a small part of me still hopes she'll get a grip, not for our friendship, but to stop causing so much grief. Honestly, I had to vent because Ellen did not stop there. She immediately posted another video, doing what I can only describe as a victory lap after the event was cancelled, and I am so tired of this girl. In her latest video, Ellen claimed the banquet's cancellation helped her mental health because planning was giving her anxiety. She rambled on about how girls only get 3 days when everything is about them: Sweet 16, high school graduation, and wedding, and how she'd made a mistake by giving up her graduation to random veterans. She opened up about her anxiety around her Sweet 16, describing how she'd been excited in the run-up, but once she stepped out for her grand entrance in her dress, the attention overwhelmed her and she ran back to the bathroom to hide. She had no idea why she felt that way, and even though her parents encouraged her to rejoin, she refused, and they ended the party early. Her parents later had her prayed over at church during an altar call. In the aftermath of her Sweet 16, she confessed she beat herself up about ruining one of the only times. When her high school graduation was approaching, her parents wanted to celebrate her. They offered to throw her a graduation party, planning to make the day all about her, a time when she could be in the spotlight and feel truly special. But she broke down, overwhelmed by emotions she couldn't fully understand. She couldn't explain why, but the idea of everyone's attention made her anxious and afraid. Eventually, she decided against the party altogether, explaining that she didn't want to risk another breakdown or panic attack. Afterward, her parents mentioned how much graduates often receive in cards and gifts at parties like that. When she learned just how much money her friends got for their own celebrations, regret gnawed at her. The realization hit hard. Not only did she miss out on a meaningful day, but she'd missed out on a milestone and the connection that comes with it. By then, it was already late summer. Friends were packing up and heading off to college. The window to celebrate had closed. Her parents, determined to give her a chance to be celebrated, and, admittedly, to get those cards and gifts she'd heard about, even offered to throw a last-minute party, tailored just for her. She refused. The moment had passed, she said, and she couldn't reclaim it. They suggested taking her and a few close friends out to a restaurant instead, a more intimate celebration, hoping that would help. She declined again. The rejection and disappointment plunged her into a dangerous spiral. She admitted to wanting to hurt herself, though she didn't go into the specifics. The pain was real and raw. Years later, when her college graduation approached, her parents, persistent in their support, asked months in advance if she'd like a party. This time, she gave a different reason for saying no. She wanted to honor veterans instead of herself. She insisted that she didn't like being the center of attention, that celebrating herself made her uncomfortable. But later, in a video, she revealed more. Deep down, she did want to be celebrated. She just feared that it might trigger that crushing panic again. She confessed that she'd settled on celebrating herself under the guise of celebrating veterans, hoping that if it wasn't totally about her, the pressure would ease, and maybe she'd be safe from her anxiety and trauma. But as the event approached, something inside her shifted. When veterans asked not to be included in the video, she realized the party was no longer under her control. It struck her, no one would be dictating her actions if this were her party, her graduation, her day. She felt she had given her power away, once again making it about anything but herself. She described in detail how this realization triggered her, how she saw, with painful clarity, that she'd thrown away both her high school and college graduations. With only a wedding left as an unquestionable chance to celebrate herself, she grieved the possibility she might never get that third opportunity at all. After veteran families signed up to attend the college graduation banquet, she changed her mind and wanted to cancel, but her parents refused. Unlike when they canceled her Sweet 16 abruptly at her request, they stood firm this time. That made her angry. Seeing a day that should have been about her benefit someone else, she said, was devastating. She admitted that she still had urges to hurt herself, harboring a belief that it was too late for therapy, like a door closed before she could fix things. After her video, clearly distraught, she disabled comments. Her vulnerability, so unlike her usual demeanor, made me worry for her. My concern was echoed by others in our friend group. Some tried to reach out, only to find we'd been blocked. I called her mother, desperate for reassurance, and she promised that she and the family were trying to support her and steer her toward professional help. I still hope she finds the help she so desperately needs. The pain in her words lingers with me, and I can only hope that one day, she'll get the celebration she deserves, without fear or regret overshadowing the moment. I didn't think I'd be back here again so fast, but I spent last night stuffing gift card envelopes at Joy's kitchen table, and what happened after that blew right past awkward family drama into something I never imagined I'd have to navigate with a friend. We just finished double-checking names and addresses from the RSVP sheet when Joy noticed an old export of the list had been emailed to Ellen's personal account weeks ago, back when she was still the point person. We changed the password to the shared church email and didn't think more of it, until this morning, when one of the veterans forwarded me an invitation he got from Ellen. It looked like a flyer she'd made herself. Private, thank you coffee for veterans at her fast food location. 1 hour only, free combo if you'll share a quick on-camera message. She'd added her handle at the bottom and a QR code to her Cash App that said GradFund. He wrote back, bluntly, that he didn't want to be filmed and asked to be taken off her list. He CC'd the church office so there'd be a record. Within an hour, the franchise owner called Joy. He'd gotten the same email from a veteran he knows through a Rotary group, and he'd already gone to the store. Ellen had signed out a corner of the dining room under team training, dragged in a ring light from her car, and printed release forms with her name in the content rights line. He shut it down on the spot. According to him, She argued that it wasn't a banquet, just recovery content, and that she was entitled to salvage the story since it was hers. He told her it wasn't happening under his roof, not with threats attached to her name and veterans already uncomfortable. He confiscated the forms and had a shift lead take over. She clocked out mid-argument and left. A couple of hours later, she posted a video in her uniform accusing corporate of sabotaging her healing, then took it down another hour after that. I only saw it because a friend screen recorded it and sent it to Joy. I came home from work to a manila envelope slid under my apartment door with my name written in Sharpie. Inside, there was a cease and desist letter printed off a free legal template, my full name pasted into bracketed blanks, a list of things I was supposed to stop immediately and without delay, and, this part made my hands shake, a stack of printed texts from 2021 where I'd helped her word a caption for one of her old videos. She'd highlighted sentences and scribbled admission next to them. There was also a photocopy of a church bulletin with Joy's phone number circled and thief written across the top in pink highlighter. I called Joy. Her husband drove over, took photos, and we went together to the precinct around the corner just to make a report in case this escalated. The officer at the desk was calm and matter-of-fact. He said with the church's trespass letter already in place, any show up on property would be enforceable, and that the envelope qualified as documented contact. Joy asked for a welfare check, too. He said they'd do one. The check happened later that night. Joy texted me from the driveway, sitting with her hazards on outside Ellen's apartment. She said officers spoke with Ellen and that Ellen agreed, finally, to meet with a counselor her dad's coworker recommended. 15 minutes after, my phone lit up with a new number. I shouldn't have left that at your door. I'm sorry you got dragged into this. You don't understand what I've lost. I stared at that last sentence for a long time and didn't respond. On Sunday, the church did a small, quiet thing at the end of service. No slideshow, no video, just the pastor inviting veterans who felt comfortable to stand. Deacons walked the aisles and handed out the gift cards and little envelopes we'd addressed at Joy's table. No one clapped. A man I recognized from the sign-up, the same one who'd asked not to be filmed at the very beginning of all this, nodded to Joy on his way out and said, "Thank you for making it simple." Then, unexpectedly, one of Ellen's veteran relatives came up the center aisle. I'd only seen photos before. He shook Joy's hand and said, quietly, that he was sorry for the mess and that they were praying for Ellen. He told her, "We'll be here when she's ready." Joy squeezed his hand and thanked him without crying. I don't know how she managed it. 2 days after that, Joy asked me to stop by again. She handed me her phone with a video paused at the first frame. Ellen's living room, no makeup, hair pulled back, voice small. She'd sent it to family and a few people from church, not posted it publicly, and asked Joy to share with anyone who had been working on the banquet. She said she'd done her intake with a therapist and agreed to a short leave from work to start an intensive outpatient program. She looked at the camera and said she was deactivating her accounts for at least a month. There was no spin. She didn't bring up lawsuits or parties. She said she knew she'd hurt people, that she wasn't in control, and that she needed to be off the internet while she figured out why she had turned a gift into a weapon. She ended by saying she'd sent the RSVP spreadsheet back to the church office and deleted her copy. I don't know what comes next for her. I do know I didn't realize how relieved I'd be to walk into Joy's den and not see poster boards or half-glued centerpieces, just a stack of empty gift card envelopes, a plate of leftover snickerdoodles, and a printed thank you note from the pastor to the veterans, ready to be mailed. For the first time in weeks, it felt like the volume had come down. I'm still done with the friendship. I'm also still hoping she takes that month and actually lives offline long enough to let something heal. That's not something I can fix. I'm just glad the veterans got their quiet, and that, for now, it's finally quiet for us, too. I really thought the quiet would hold. It did, for about 10 days, until Wednesday night when Joy called and asked if I could meet her at the community center around the corner from the church. They gave us the small conference room for an hour, she said. Only if we leave the door propped and the blinds open. When I walked in, there were 8 plastic chairs in a circle, a pot of coffee on a folding table, and a yellow no filming or recording sign the deacons had printed and taped up at eye level. 2 of the veterans who'd reported Ellen's DMs were already there, plus Ellen's uncle, the relative Joy didn't expect to come to the banquet. He gave me a tight smile like he wasn't sure yet if we were on the same team. A deacon hovered by the door, arms folded, and there was a woman with a spiral-bound planner on her lap who introduced herself as a therapist from Ellen's program. She'd asked for a repair conversation, her words, on neutral ground. The board had agreed, with conditions. Ellen could step on church property for 60 minutes, to apologize and hand over anything she still had, and that was it. Ellen came in with her hair pulled back and no phone in her hands. She put a clear Ziploc bag on the table. Inside was her phone, turned off, and a blue accordion folder with those little color-coded tabs sticking out. She didn't sit until the therapist nodded at her. Then she stayed standing. I wrote it down so I wouldn't get dramatic, she said, and unfolded a page. I lied in videos. I lied in messages. I used fear to stop something I asked everyone to build with me. I'm sorry. Her voice did the thing where it catches in your throat and you have to swallow twice. She read 5 sentences like that, simple, nothing spun for sympathy, and then she put the paper on the table and pushed the blue folder toward the deacon. This is the RSVP spreadsheet I exported. I deleted the copy on my drive. There's a signed affidavit from my ISP about the deletion. These are the paper release forms from the restaurant. I didn't use them. These are screenshots of refunds for every Cash App notification I got the day of the flyer. It wasn't a lot, but I didn't earn it. She reached into her tote and set a crumpled pawn shop receipt on top. I sold my ring light and the gimbal. That's the money order. You don't have to take it. She slid a white envelope across the table, made out to the Veterans Benevolence Fund the church uses for gas cards and grocery runs. The number written on the front wasn't huge, but it was real, and the deacon stared at it for a second before he picked it up. One of the veterans, the one who'd asked to be left out at the very beginning, leaned forward and laced his fingers together. "No more recordings?" he asked. "No more recordings," Ellen said, and glanced at the window like the sign might answer for her. "My accounts are still down. I'm in a program in the mornings. I have to earn my phone back in the afternoons. They have a lockbox," she added, like she knew how weird that sounded coming out of her mouth and wanted to beat us to the punch. The other veteran shook his head. "I was deployed when a reporter put my name where it didn't belong," he said, looking at the table. "My mom stopped going to the grocery store for a year. I don't want anything from you. I wanted it to stop." Ellen nodded. He stood up and walked out. He didn't slam anything. He just didn't come back. The therapist made a note on her planner and let the quiet sit. Ellen's uncle cleared his throat. "We're family," he said to Ellen without softness. "But you can't blow up a whole room and then decide when you sweep." He reached in his jacket pocket and took out a small pin, a little gold star with an eagle, and put it on the table next to the money order. "I wore this to everything in my 20s because I wanted people to know who I was before I ever opened my mouth." He pushed it to the middle. "Don't ever use us for that again." Ellen stared at the pin and then at him and said, "Okay." By the end of the hour, the deacon had the folder and the money order, the therapist had a list of names Ellen would be writing to, and everyone knew this wasn't a magic fix. When the timer on the therapist's phone chirped, we stood up. Ellen looked at me and said, "I won't text you. I won't put you in anything." I needed to say this in the same air. I told her I heard her. She left with her hands empty. The next morning, the franchise owner emailed Joy to say corporate had closed their investigation. They'd asked for statements, reviewed the uniform video Ellen posted and then deleted, and categorized it as a policy violation. He offered Ellen a choice: accept termination with rehire eligibility after 6 months, or resign in good standing with a note about completing IOP. She turned in her visor and name tag in a zip bag, signed the resignation line, and left her store key on the counter. A kid I recognized from youth group texted me that afternoon, "Ellen's not on the schedule anymore. Did something happen?" I didn't answer. On Sunday I helped Joy stamp the last of the envelopes we'd written to veterans who hadn't been at the quiet service. 2 had come back undeliverable, and the church office asked if anyone could drop them off at updated addresses. I took one. The house was a small ranch with marigolds deadheaded neatly under the front window. A woman met me halfway down the walkway with a dish towel over her shoulder. When I said I had something from the church, she wiped her hands and took the envelope like she knew exactly what it would be. "He would have liked this," she said, nodding at the return address. "He never went to the big things. He hated it when they point and clap." She invited me in for tea and I stood in front of a shadow box on the mantel, 3 medals and a photo of a young man laughing with his mouth open, eyes shut, like someone had told a joke at the wrong time and he couldn't help himself. She told me he died 3 years ago, that sometimes she still turns to tell him something about the mail and has to pat her leg instead. When I left, she pressed a butterscotch into my hand like a grandmother would and said, "Thank you for making it simple." 2 days later, a plain white postcard showed up in my box with my name in all caps like she'd used a ruler to draw the letters. It was postmarked from the next town over and had no return address. "Started mornings at the nursery on Maple," it said in black pen. "No phones on the floor. Soil under the nails is not metaphor. I'm doing the plan they gave me. Not asking for anything. Just telling you I heard you." The front was a photo of a hanging fern. I put it in the drawer with takeout menus and coupons and sat there for a minute, thinking about the ring light in a pawnshop glass case and the blue folder with the tabs. Joy called me tonight because the board voted to accept Ellen's money order into the benevolence account and to keep the trespass letter in place for now. "She stood on our carpet and did a hard thing," Joy said. "But until she stands on her own 2 feet for a while, we need that boundary." I told her I agreed. She exhaled like she'd been braced for me to argue. "I don't know if this is as close to closure as we get. There's no ribbon tied on it. There's a pawn receipt with a smudged thumbprint, a handful of apologies that might never be read, a job that won't ask her to post a single thing, and a veteran's pin sitting in a deacon's desk drawer because no one knew what to do with it after he put it on the table. For now, the air is quiet again. It feels like the first real quiet, not the brittle kind that cracks the second someone breathes too loudly. I'm still done being her friend. I'm not rooting for her in secret, I'm rooting for the people who asked us to make it simple and meant it. And if she keeps her accounts dark and her head down and a little dirt under her nails, that's between her and whatever it is she's finally listening to.